pressure on, not why he's such a he's brilliant, right?
You guys want to do it?
Some more people on there, right?
Oh.
Oh, we can send it.
Not really, by the way. I'm just here. That's all it is. Initially, my talk was going to be titled "Against Leadership." However, I thought that the title was too presumptuous, and that it assumed I know what leadership is. The reason why I titled my talk, hopefully you will get at the end, I don't speak very long, so hopefully you will gather what I wanted to say, what I intended to say, comes out clearly. But give me about 20, 30 minutes. And feel free at the end if anything you don't understand, because I have a tendency to speak philosophically. Anything you don't understand, feel free to ask questions. When I was asked to give a talk about leadership, I'm currently working on a book titled Being, Nothingness, and Something Else. It is based on, I'm trained as a phenomenologist, which is a branch of philosophy which deals with consciousness and the nature of consciousness and what it means to exist in the world. I was trained by Stanford and Lyman, who was a Bavarian sociologist, and Teresa Brennan, God bless the dead, the two passed away, who was a structural Marxist philosopher. And both of them trained me in phenomenological analysis, phenomenological discourse. Be that as it may, my work tends to focus on structural Marxism, phenomenology, consciousness, meaning what does it mean to exist in the world, and how do we acquire the ideas that we hold dear, so dear to our hearts. And that being said, I had to, given the title of this talk this afternoon on leadership, I am grounded in the Enlightenment philosophy, which is not necessarily European, but is simply philosophy, on the issue of rationalism, on the issue of leadership, on the issue of democracy. What comes out of being that we are grounded in the Western tradition, given that the Western tradition has supplanted most other philosophical traditions since 1492. What comes out of the Enlightenment, which is a period which dates about the 16th and 17th century in Europe, which encounters the traditional philosophy of Greek philosophy, the traditional philosophy of Oriental philosophy, and the Europeans. The Enlightenment period marks the European encounter with these traditions again. So what we find or what comes out of the Enlightenment period is this discourse between rationality and tradition, meaning how should we exist? Are human beings pure rationalists, pure reason, or should we hold on to the mysticism associated with religion and religiosity and traditions? In fact, all of Western philosophy, dating from the medieval ages to about contemporary philosophy, is dealing with that particular issue, which is one issue grounded in metaphysics, ontology, and the other issue grounded on positivism and rationalism. The Europeans held on to metaphysics. Hence, in philosophy, we have the distinction between continental philosophy and positivism here in America, which emphasizes supposedly rationalism and positivism and pragmatism. But nonetheless, what comes out of this period and what predominates contemporarily is this issue about whether or not human beings are rational, and if we are, what type of society should we establish? Should establish rationalism. Got this for 2 years. What type of society does a rational society look like? Is it a liberal democratic society? Is it a society divorced from religiosity? Is it a society simply on reason? Some will argue the latter won out. Society should be based on reason and rationalism. And if most of you, being that you are in leadership, the last couple of years, the 2 books that have dominated our thinking of the world, The Clash of Civilization by Samuel P. Huntington and Francis Fukuyama, who was in Bill Clinton's administration, The End of History. End of history, what Fukuyama argues is that the system has one goal. History because reasonality has won out. Now, what does that have to do with leadership? Well, one of the key elements that comes out of the Enlightenment in this whole issue of reason and rationality is that in a democracy, there is a leader. There is no need for authority. We all have our own authority. In fact, out of the Enlightenment comes this notion that if we are truly a democratic society, as Rand argues, all families should teach their children to be anti-authority, to stand against their parents, to speak their minds, etc. Why? Because the underlying principle of enlightenment and rationality that we all potentially have the potential to be rational. In fact, Martin Heidegger argues there is 2 forms of existence or form of being in the world that we as human beings occupy. We're either present at hand or ready to hand. Now, what does that mean? For Heidegger, being present at hand simply means you are aware. You have consciousness. I'm sorry, ready to hand meaning you are aware, you have consciousness. Present at hand simply means you're no longer at the area where you simply are pure consciousness. Now you can think about your own existence. In fact, the term he coins is design or being there, which is the mode of human existence. You could either remain ready at hand or ready to hand, however you want to interpret his understanding of design. Or you could remain present at hand and occupy pure reason where you're constantly thinking about your own existence. Heidegger, writing in the 1960s, believed that human beings are the only, what distinguishes human beings from all other animals is the fact that human beings are the only beings that can think about their own being, self-reflective about their own existence. And not only that, but look at themselves in the future, or potentially look at themselves in the future. Now, in existential philosophy, which is phenomenology, what we should all strive for is to be present at hand at all times. Constantly aware of our own existence, our own being in the world. What does it mean to exist in the world? Who am I in the world? We should be at the point of pure knowledge, pure existence, and our striving should be to constantly exist, because existence precedes essence, as Jean-Paul Sartre argued.